Sir Scoops a lot and David Goss here on Soccer Wise. It is time to dig into the Columbus Crew, or as much of it as we have. We're going to be talking with Ben from Upper90 Club in just a moment. Tom, we delayed on this one because Cucho's out and we are waiting for that replacement. We do not have that replacement, and that is going to be a big storyline. The question, though, then stands, what should the expectations be? How much can Wilfried Nancy and this group maintain without a number 9, or as long as it takes?
Yeah, it's a really difficult question because I do believe that they're going to sign a DP9, and I wouldn't be surprised if they signed a DP10, whether that's in the summer or if they can get something done now. But it doesn't get any easier the longer you go past the January window. The first couple weeks is, you look at LAFC, they're going to sign Cengiz Ünder on loan. Well, that happened because he's not going to be playing at Fenerbahce, and he was allowed to go. But there's not a ton of opportunities like that where if you're getting players from teams, the vast majority of them are not key players for the team. So the pool is going to get thinner and thinner, and the further away from that window you go, teams can say, look, we can't replace the player. You have to wait till the summer. So I don't envy the situation that Columbus Crew is in, but I think we both have enough trust for their infrastructure, for the front office, for Wilfried Nancy, that doesn't matter who's on the field, they're going to play the same way, whether it's Jason Russell-Rowe up top or Cucho Hernandez, whether it's, if Darlington Nagbe could take a time machine to be 28 or to be his current age, right? Sean Zawatsky instead of Aiden Morris, they're still going to be the Columbus Crew. So I keep going back and forth, like, if this was a blind test, looking at this roster, I might have them below the playoff line, or they'd definitely be, I'd be having more thoughts.
Right.
But it's Columbus, and I just have so much blind trust that, they'll sign a DP9, and guess what? Wilfried Nancy is going to show a side of his game that we've never seen before, and they're going to be really good again. So it's somewhere between there.
And it may not be a side of Wilfried Nancy's game we've never seen before. It might just be, it turns out he can do it with everything. Like that, I think, to me, is the question mark right now, is like, can Wilfried Nancy get us to play his style at high level, and can it cover our flaws? And that, I think, is going to be what's fascinating to watch. They're definitely still high on the watchability rankings because the style will be there, and because of the intrigue and interest, and because of Columbus. Talked about it a little bit with Ben coming up. But Tom, we were there for All-Star last year. The walk to that stadium, the atmosphere around it now, the fact that they own 2 soccer-specific stadiums in Columbus, with Monfrey still operating as the Crew 2 stadium, like, it is a really cool soccer market. You feel it through the television, but you definitely feel it in person.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's, getting to be there, obviously All-Star, pales in comparison to MLS Cup. That evening when they beat LAFC, that place was jumping. That city was jumping, other than being in Ubers and hearing about Ohio State transfer portal recruitment. Other than that, it was all Columbus Crew all the time. It was really cool. I have a lot of love for this city. We've enjoyed our time there for sure.
Yeah, it is one that I always enjoy going to. I hope to go back. It has been the center of the soccer universe for a little while here in North America. It might continue to be. It's been fascinating to watch the Crew happen this offseason in parallel to FC Cincinnati, because the two have been sort of the mark setters in Major League Soccer, and they've both been through this churn. And yet I think there's confidence in both of them that they have the, not just the wherewithal to do it and the skills, but also the commitment financially and as a club to continue to try and progress and reach that next step. So it's going to be fascinating to watch this season. Let's go into our conversation now with Ben, all about the Columbus Crew. Well, it has been the center of the Major League Soccer world for the last 2 years. Columbus, Ohio. It hosted MLS Cup. It hosted the All-Star Game. It hosted a Leagues Cup final and everything else in between, until the New York Red Bulls knocked them off in upset fashion in the playoffs. And we're here to talk about the Crew, and we're going to do it with Ben of Upper90 Club podcast. You should listen to that show if you don't already for all of your Crew coverage. Ben, thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me. I was waiting patiently by the phone because I knew you guys were doing the calls, and I was like, I wonder if he's going to choose us, and he did, and I was like, yes!
I was waiting patiently as well to see if we'd know, like who were the good players on Columbus and what this team was made of, and seems like my call never came, so then I pushed yours through.
Yeah, I think let's just talk movies and music, because I don't think anything happened in Columbus, so.
Nothing at all. As usual, we will dig through our transfer wrap-up and our off-season, which, as we said, has been eventful. We will dig into our Doyleism as well, and then potentially we'll have our over-under line from Andrew Wiebe. It is going to happen live, as he is busy, raising kids and having a family and all those other things.
Been there.
As he goes along. And listen, he was committed. At least I didn't make him write haikus. I would like that to be out there. It could be a lot worse for him right now, but it has been an interesting offseason. The big thing being Cucho Hernandez is now gone, sold to Real Betis. I watched the clip of him hitting a Rabona this weekend already on that squad. Let's just talk about Cucho for a second, because there are players and signings and all of that are outside, I think, what a normal sports experience is. I have been to Columbus with you, hanging out, walking around, seeing the fans, interacting with fans. There is a lot of Cucho stuff. It was not, in the end, a long time period. But what does Cucho mean to Columbus, and sort of what right now do you feel like his legacy is?
Yeah, there's been a lot of chatter about that. I think it goes without saying that he is the best player to put on a Columbus Crew uniform. I don't think that's debatable. It took him a little while to get going. We always forget that he was there when Lucas Celerán was here. He did not take off until he was asked to step up, because just like what happened to Cucho, we lost Lucas overnight. So it was ever since that happened, that was kind of the turning point right after, I believe it was Leagues Cup in 2023. But we knew it was going to happen. Come on. We knew it was going to happen. We didn't know it would happen like 7 seconds before deadline day. And honestly, I'm not entirely sure the front office was ready for that yet, based on, I don't know, everything that hasn't happened.
I actually think there was a quote from Issa Tall, who said, the new GM of Columbus, who said, we knew it would happen. We thought it would be in a year, but the Real Betis offer was too good, both for the team and for Cucho. I think that's the big thing. It feels like coming out of this is the acknowledgement, as you said, of like, this is going to happen. It probably has something to do with Colombia and the World Cup. It probably has a lot to do as well, just with his career aspirations and the flow of his career. But he did seem really happy. He was really invested. And I think that was the glimmer of hope, was maybe this is a guy who wants this to be the rest of his life, or the core of his prime.
Right, I agree. And that's the same thing with Christian Ramirez. That's the same thing we see with a lot of the players currently under Wilfried Nancy, is that they want to stay here. They feel appreciated. They love the city, and everything is roses. But 2 weeks ago, we lost both of them, so maybe not.
Yeah.
And what is life? But yeah, as you can tell, our Crew supporters are a little bit still in shock over just like an up and go. You know, like we got hit with save. You know, the Crew almost got taken. You know, our players get taken. You know, it's like it's you know, we should be ready for this.
We are obviously digging through an offseason where we're experiencing the Evander stuff and Lucho Acosta stuff and all that stuff. I understand Cucho's different. Is there any animosity from fans to him right now?
No. And that's the beauty that I see through all this, or the silver lining, is that, you know, Acosta wasn't happy with Sensi. I don't know if anybody knew that, but he said it like, again, 1 second after the game. He's like, I'm out, peace. Evander is notorious for being, you know, hot-headed and like skipping around. Cucho was the same way. And if we remember, and for the listeners who don't follow the Crew, he got put on timeout after a game in Charlotte for an attitude problem. He came back unplayable, like completely different attitude. Whatever was said, whatever happened at the club behind closed doors. And the thing is, like, no one knows. We never knew. He came back, and like I said, he was unplayable. He was phenomenal. So the culture at the club is something that people want to play here. You know, this is something where people want to stay. And, you know, that's why I think when I'm looking at like the Acostas and the Evanders and all these other people leaving, even Swiderski over at Charlotte, these great players are leaving and people are upset, but we as a fan base are, you know, we still support them. Like everybody I know went out and got ESPN Plus to watch Real Betis in their first game, home game, watching Cucho.
Too, by the way.
Oh, I know. Well, I mean, full disclosure, my dude in green is disgusting, and I don't support that at all. But he did hit a Rabona. I actually watched the entire game. He tried a scissor kick and almost took off a guy's head, and he tried an outside-the-foot keeper. I mean, he's still Cucho.
Yeah.
And watching him play made me very sad that we're not going to see that, you know, that intensity this season, and he doesn't get to put on a Crew jersey again. It's just, it's rough.
We did our watchability rankings, and Columbus has been at the top of that for a long time. That is a lot of Wilfried Nancy. It's a lot of the, you know, lower.com field, the atmosphere, the environment. but it's also a lot Cucho. And like, if Messi didn't play in this league, Cucho was the best player in Major League Soccer. He was a floor raiser and a ceiling raiser, both. Like, he carried Columbus at times when the team wasn't great, and then he elevated Columbus to championship levels and incredible outputs. You mentioned when he stepped up, and I think that was part of Lucas Zelarayan being let go, was like the offer was really big, but what they did was they reshifted the team where Rossi was a second front runner to Cucho, and they built the team around Cucho, and he went from like a contributing winger or playing out wide-ish to the best all-around attacking force in Major League Soccer that hadn't won a Ballon d'Or or won a World Cup. And I think it's going to be really unfortunate not to get to see him. Let me ask you this one before we run through the rest of these moves. When I was in Columbus last year with all of you, you could feel what had happened, which was the crew were saved, and the crew were not just back, I think elevated to a different level. Downtown stadium, brand new facility, championship. It felt like there was this energy around the club that was unprecedented for a lot of MLS originals, unprecedented, I think, for soccer teams in North America. Is there any worry with Cucho out the door that goes away, or is that stuff permanent?
Well, luckily, the front office and the business probably got all their season. I mean, I believe the season is probably sold out, and they got that money already. So it's going to be sold out whether you like it or not. It depends kind of who you talk to. With Nancy being in control, that's kind of that style of play is what you go to see. And then like I said, Cucho was on the team for a while before he became the Cucho that we know. And, he was, like you said, he was playing out wide, but then Nancy gave him the ability to be that complete number 9, which is like a hybrid number 9 and 10, kind of go find the game, and it opened him up. But he's also done that to a lot of the players that are currently still on the team, which we'll get here in a second. But it's a bummer. Cucho is definitely... I think your question is more like, is Cucho like what people go and see like Messi? And I don't think that's the case necessarily in Columbus, because we have turned into a soccer town.
Yep.
Well, we always were a soccer town, and I found out the hard way. But this is just further proof that we're still going to show up. It won't matter. It
is, for anyone who hasn't been, if you're listening and you're not a Crew fan, it's one of the must MLS experiences. Not only now the downtown stadium, although I still enjoyed my tailgates out at Mafre and getting my shoes dirty and all of that with it. But there is a real soccer energy to the city. There are banners and stickers in every window, on every car. Like, you walk around Columbus if you go for a game, especially a big one, and you feel like it matters. And then this now experience of walking to lower.com and like you pass under whatever that one overpass thing is.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It feels something special. And so I highly recommend for everyone to go. Other people who won't be there this year, Christian Ramirez will not be a part of this. He was traded to the LA Galaxy. Two U22 spots were opened up on the roster, with Alexandru Matan leaving at the end of the season, and then Hinestrosa being sold back to Colombia. Thank you, Hinestrosa, for giving me some credibility when I was down there on vacation while you were scoring goals, and I was like, oh yeah, MLS, you know MLS? Yeah, that's me. Yeah. We're related. And Yaya Boa let go as well. On the incoming side, there is not a ton yet. Lassi Lapalainen is the biggest addition. A lot of the other work that's been done has been extensions. Patrick Schulte signed an extension. Stanislav Lopskis has been upgraded to a homegrown, so now he would be available to play in goal. You're welcome, Sean Swatsky. And Evan Bush re-signed, and potentially Timothy Chalamet added to the whole thing as well, as he was sporting his Columbus gear over in Germany, was it?
It was.
Do we know why?
No, he has that French connection. I know that much. I honestly, someone like him, do you think he picks out his own clothes for those pressers? I'll give you a hint. The answer is no. He's not like us. So
no, he is not. Although he is friends with Alex Muyl. He grew up with him in New York, which we learned about a few weeks ago. So I'd hope he looked at it and said, no, I'm a Nashville guy, but maybe he's not that far into it or any of that as well. Either way, Timothy, we'll see you at one of the games. I know he's a Knicks fan, so we've got that locked in, but maybe he can add Columbus as well. What have you made of the overall offseason outside of just Cucho?
It's interesting. We've had a hard time with our pod dealing with this offseason with the lack of moves, if it's not broke, don't fix it, I feel like is what we kind of did. And the issue with that is I don't know what's better, signing a bunch of players and having them take a month or two to vet in and then playing a whole season, or just rolling with what you have and, guys that already know what is expected of them.
Yeah.
And then just playing. MLS is weird because not every game matters in like EPL world and like, the European League. So like for us, I look at this like, well, we lost Cucho, which is a massive loss, but we did win when he wasn't there and he was hurt. Mm-hmm. Rossi did step up and score those goals, especially in, I think it was CONCACAF. He was like leading Golden Boot. And it's like, well, that came out of nowhere, and it's like, well, yeah, this is the next man mentality from Nancy, which is like, we lose this player, who's going to step up? So that's kind of exciting for us in the season to see like who's going to step up, like who's going to be the next Cucho? Is it Rossi? I don't really think so based on player profile, but like AZ and Russell Rowe, while they struggled at the beginning, now they've had an entire offseason. Maybe it could be them.
Yeah.
And as far as the offseason goes, I think. Obviously, Cucho was a surprise. It was a surprise to everybody. I think it was a surprise to the front office. We have a short list of people. I'm glad we didn't panic sign. I didn't want to sign like a really good starting striker from Estonia, or somebody that, what's the point? Like we have a bunch of people that we currently have. Let's not panic sign. And I think Issa came out yesterday during the season ticket member like a group where they could ask him questions, kind of figure out what's going on. And he said very bluntly, I don't want to sign somebody and just throw them money. I want them to want to come to the club. And if that's not the conversation we're having, we're not interested. And I mean, that sounds good. I'm sure that's not 100%. It's obviously about money. I'm not a crazy person. But again, I don't want to sign Neymar just to be like, hey man, I got like 30 million. Like, let's do this. It's like, no, I want to get somebody who fits and get Nancy in. Let's talk about who fits the mold. Let's get this total soccer player so it works. And like I said before, this is not like the EPL. So we have grace in the beginning of the season. And I think while a lot of people are trying to get their footing, a la like Chicago, our first game, on paper they look great. They did great. In fact, a lot of teams did. I think the MLS sold was like 250 million, like fourth most money spent this window. Cool. Yeah. People are spending money and they're bringing in some great players, but we can win without Cucho. Like we have 9 other players that started. It's there. So like, if we're not coming out swinging, we may. I don't see supporter shield, but I'm also not seeing us just fall on our face because we're missing one player.
Yeah, but I think it felt like when Cucho got sold, supporter shield probably went out the window. CONCACAF Champions Cup probably went out the window.
Right.
And if that's the reality, and that's just the reality because of how hard it is to get players to come in and hit the ground running and be that next piece at the level that Cucho is. Otherwise, I agree with you, which is nothing else really changed. And why get drastic and say, all right, let's bring in these 4 half measures to try and replace Cucho. And there's been some work done in advance. AZ Jackson was already brought in. That's an option to be able to step in to some of these minutes that you're losing probably from Matan. Lassi Lapalainen, I think, is not a bad piece to say now Max Arfstein can be moved around a bit, or Lapalainen can. And there's obviously been flexibility that's been built into this roster from the beginning. The other big thing is, Fernandes doesn't really want to play a million players. He likes to move pieces around, but he likes to move it around on the field. He wants 16 locked-in pieces. So if you go out and sign 3 TAM-level players or whatever mid-level starters, potentially, because you're worried about the number 9 position, you might end up on the back end in August with, Fernandes having 3 guys sitting on the bench who are never a part of things. It really is about that one big piece that you're trying to replace Cucho with, which takes us to the number 9 DP conversation, which is the big conversation that's happening. The one report we're getting right now, as of recording, is Flaco Lopez, a 24-year-old Argentine center forward at Palmeiras, originally from Lanús, has never really locked down a starting spot, but has scored goals when he's been in the team, and it's a pretty tough team to get into with all the success they've had. Is this what you'd expect as the profile of the replacement for Cucho?
that's the thing that I keep struggling with. I think we struggle with as a fan base is that, we got to replace Cucho. Yeah, cool. No one plays like Cucho. No one played last year like Cucho. So, do you want somebody who plays like him? Because you're not going to find him, and you're not going to it just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So what fits the system? What fits Nancy's system? And it's like, well, he needs to be a total footballer, which is like, he can play a 9 and a 10. He's going to buy into the system. He's going to not only he's going to run 90 minutes. He is going to come back and defend sometimes. He is going to work with the other two up top, and there needs to be that chemistry. So, when you're looking, it was like, bring in like Holland or somebody. Like, I don't think Benteke comes in and does well in this system. I mean, he's phenomenal.
Yep.
But if you're looking at player profile, when he looks at defense, like a defensive player, he's like, oh, cool, I have a center back. He was a midfielder? He'll play fullback now. And you're like, what? What's happening? Okay, cool. I mean, anybody can play whatever. I wouldn't be surprised if Max Arston goes up top and has a pretty decent season. We just signed, we have 5 goalkeepers on the field. You know what? He might throw Zawadzki back in goal. We don't care. That's the beauty. That's what makes us so watchable, is that we're going to play this style of soccer, and it is going to be crazy. We don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think the non-panic signing is a good sign. It's not comforting, but it's a good sign when you look at the future, especially with this being Issa's first big move after Bez left.
Yeah,
and we all know Bez. We all loved Bez. True Columbus. Grew up in Columbus. We loved him. I'm really glad he moved on. Hopefully, we're making smart decisions moving forward. So,
yeah, Tim Bezbatchenko, as you said, president and sporting director of the club, moved on last year. We actually had him on this show kind of soon after he did, so you can go back and find that interview if you're interested. Working under one of the Global Football Initiative groups that owns multiple teams. Dark Knight being the name, Bournemouth being the big team, although he was very excited about the club in New Zealand that they were operating. So that was a big conversation. I think they were launching that week.
Lord of the Rings.
When we first talked. So you got to try and win whatever you can as someone in that position. For the Crew, because they were very good last year. They will play in CONCACAF Champions Cup. As we know, they actually have a first-round bye. They are waiting to see the winner of the previous round to then get into the competition. And then Leagues Cup again, potentially going for a repeat. Maybe not exactly the way this team is set up, but that is a big one. We normally talk here about any other things that stand out. We mentioned Issa Tall is the new general manager, sort of running things as the head person for the first time, worked under Tim Bezbatchenko both in Columbus and Toronto already. And so one of the ones that I think we had named all the time when you said, who's next, when other clubs are looking to fill GM roles. And then Wilfred Nancy, of course, the head coach. You would assume his role will grow even more now, as there is that little bit more of a power vacuum towards the top. And he is one of the favorites. I think, Ben, I think you would know that all people in Columbus are pretty spoiled to be around him.
Yeah, we won the lottery. Bez saw that a mile away. He saw what could happen, when he was the assistant coach at Galaxy, how people talked about him when he moved to Montreal. And then, we just offered him, the front office did a really good job of offering him hey, here's the team. Run it how you want to run it. We won't be like whoever the Montreal guy is that stepped in and was in the locker room, what about this? It's no, dude, you run it how you want. And he was extremely successful. And that kind of mentality across the board is what Columbus has been doing, which is why everybody's so happy. It will be interesting if we do fall.
Yeah.
I'm really what are the vibes then, man?
Mm-hmm.
Are we super cool? Is everybody I still love being here? It's maybe not, but we'll see. That's, I've been around long enough where I'm I was here when we sucked. People weren't stoked, and Columbus isn't that great. It's not Florida, Goss. You look tan on here, by the way. Frustrating. It's snowing up here.
I do not, because I got crazy lights on, but it rained today, so you can feel a little bit better. There was a little bit of rain today. I remember the Varzija years as well. Many, many down years in between. And I think it is interesting to say, what is the phrase impossible is, nothing mean when you're in 9th place and on a 4-game losing streak. And how does it all work? And it's going to be a big part of this year, I think, for Wilfried Nancy is it's going to be a little different. How does he sort of manage that experience? Because over the last 3-4 years, it has been up, 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 all in one direction. And of course, the loss against Red Bulls was sort of the start of that, a little bit unexpected. Let's go to our Doyleism now, and then we'll jump off the back of that and we'll talk a little more.
It's just hard to imagine the Crew won't take a step backwards in 2025. And the biggest part of that is just talent. They sold Aiden Morris in the middle of last year, and they never really replaced him. I mean, they replaced him from within with Sean Zawadzki, who's good, but he's not Aiden Morris's level. They sold Cucho Hernandez a couple of weeks ago. They haven't replaced him yet. And they also traded Christian Ramirez as well. That's their best defensive midfielder and half their goals. And look, I have a lot of faith in Wilfried Nancy to get the absolute best out of guys down the roster on the fringe of the rotation, bring forward a player like Jason Russell-Rowe and Dylan Chambos, get him more integrated this year. But it's going to take time. And the chances are that those guys in particular aren't going to be as good as the guys they're replacing. So they need to go out and spend some money. And I think they have plans to do that, but they haven't done it yet. And then whenever that new player or players get here, one of them's supposed to be Flaco Lopez, which would be a great purchase. It's not likely that they're instantly going to slot into the lineup and be just as good as what Cucho was. So I think there's bound to be some slippage, but this is also bound to be a team that is competing for trophies by the middle or end of the season. I wouldn't want to face them in Leagues Cup or obviously in the MLS Cup playoffs. I think this is a team that will go into those tournaments with the intention of winning it. And given how much I love the way they play and given the pedigree that they have, even without Cucho and Ramirez and Aiden Morris, if they do win one or both, wouldn't shock me at all.
Right.
So I think level-headed there from Doyle, similar to sort of the tone we were setting.
Sure.
Is that the expectation that it sort of hits the ground middle of the year? And is there still the expectation that this is a team that has to compete for a trophy this year?
The hope is always MLS Cup. I mean, you get stars for MLS Cup. You don't get stars for Leagues Cup that we just made up. We don't get stars for CONCACAF. We don't get like a little cool cup that's on the back of our shorts or something like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So the reality, knowing Nancy, he will play to win all the games. Dim the breaks, and he will sacrifice regular season for those games, which we didn't love last season. I'm not going to lie to you. Like if you could be like, hey, getting second in CONCACAF and winning Leagues Cup, would you trade that for MLS Cup? I'd be like, duh.
Yeah.
But we went hard on those, and we played like 3 games a week for 20 weeks or something bananas. Like, we were so tired of podcasting, I was like, I don't even want to be here anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it was ridiculous. So, he's going to go for it. I wish he wouldn't, but it is what it is. And I think, I don't know, we didn't get to the point where he said like the over under. You guys said it was 53.5 over under. And at first I was really angry because you guys all said under. And I almost sent you a really mean text, but I withheld. I took a deep breath and I looked at the standings from last year, and 54 points was 8th or 9th in the league and 4th in the East. And I was like, you know what? That's actually a pretty good take. And I'd be happy with that because you just got to get hot towards the end of the season, which is what we did when we won MLS Cup 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So if we can come out of the next transfer window with a couple signings that boost morale and get everything going, and we don't drown in the first part of the season, I think we'll be okay.
I would like to say that I would like to say a ton of respect for having that thought process and that taking that breath. My social media manager would love for everyone to scream the moment that we say something that they hate. Do it on social media. If you're going to do it via text, so I do appreciate that one breath to not be coming down on top of us. Because when you do a show where you drop it over under on all 30 teams, guess how many teams are mad at you? Pretty much 30 of them. Even if you go over somehow, people get mad about why you're over and what you're doing and all of those things, and it is fun all together. As Doyle mentioned, a lot of talent out the door, but there's some interesting pieces in here as well. We talked about AZ Jackson. We haven't really mentioned Jason Russell-Rowe, who we think is going to step into a big role. Dylan Shambost as well, who was brought in as a TAM player last year. And then similar to Cucho, his first year, like given a half year to sort of sit and get comfortable and then probably expected more. Who are you really keyed in on for this year for there to be some success through the regular season?
Shambo's a good shout. So check it out. We brought him in to play in the top 3. He eventually got slotted back into kind of an advanced 8 position, and he was nasty. Like, he has got the vision to do that. He's not good enough to be a 10, but we don't need a 10 in this system. And he's pretty good at defense. He covers a lot of that. He's a box-to-box kind of deal, but when we go up, he has that vision. So I'm excited to see what his role is. Honestly, with Jason Russell-Rowe, he was on the team last year full-time. He didn't really get to play because he did struggle. It'll be interesting to see if he can step up. AZ has always been rumored to be kind of a hothead. When I read all the St. Louis stuff when he left, and he's just like, blah, 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 blah. But if Nazi's able to, quell that and he can work up top, he could be a firecracker. Those are the big ones. It'll be interesting to see where Max plays, Arfston. Yeah. And we didn't really see DeJuan Jones do anything crazy, and that guy is a baller, right? Like,
listen, I've been sold on DeJuan Jones for 7 years.
I love him.
No one else has been, so this is the last chance. If it doesn't happen under Wilfried Nancy, it's never going to happen. It didn't happen last year, but it does feel like there are more minutes in that midfield now this year. Aiden Morris being gone, but also, as you mentioned, Shambost being in there last year. He will play that little bit higher this year from a starting position. So there will be minutes in that deeper midfield spot if a Zawadzki has to play center back, or I would say Darlington Nagbe misses any minutes, but let's be real, that's never going to happen. It has never happened before.
He's not real.
Yeah, and it will never happen again. He is Darlington Nagbe. We're not even going to mention him. Like, that's what it's like, right? He's the Ohio native. He's quiet. He does his job. He does his job as well, if not better, than anyone in Major League Soccer. And he's one of the reasons, I think, that the floor won't fall out of this thing is because he is just a pressure sponge. And whatever it is that Wilfried Nancy wants to do, which is maybe making some pieces, as if there are new pieces this year, play out of tight spaces that they're not comfortable with or they're not fully cohesive with. Nagbe will clean up a lot of the mistakes by being able to play out of pressure and save transition moments from going the other way. I also think he's reached that leadership role in this league where he's going to be the one to try and help all the new pieces, if there are new pieces, come in and settle in this league. He's got good experience doing it across MLS, but especially now in Columbus over the last few years. So this takes us to our over-under line from Andrew Wiebe, which has been delivered to us while making, I believe it is celery, carrot, and something else in the soup. Sausage, wild rice, and carrot soup.
That's made up.
So this is coming in a little bit spicy and hot. That is not. And that does not sound like an appealing meal. He gave us goals scored for Columbus. So the question is the attack post Cucho. He sets the line at 60.5. Last year, Columbus scored 72 goals. Of course, they were an incredible attack. And the question is, are they a great attack or under? And under obviously being a big drop, but dropping into normal territory. So last year, under that number would have put them potentially still above Orlando as top 4 in the Eastern Conference. The West, a little bit more dangerous offensively. Colorado finished 5th in goal scoring at 61 goals. So you can go under this line, still be a good attack, but it will be a huge drop from last year. So the question is, what will be the impact, I think, of the loss of Cucho and whoever they bring in? What do you make of the line, and where do you fall?
All right, check it out. So here's what people are missing when, Cucho is taking the headlines for obvious reasons. So if Wiebe said we're around, 60, 61, 62, we were the 3rd best defense in the league. We only gave up 40 goals. There was one team below us at 39 and one team at 37. So we're very close. So, I mean, if you look at that and we're posting around 62 goals and we gave up 40, we're still at a plus 22 goal differential. And you guys are going to be going on the pod going, this team is amazing. And I'm like, yeah, dog, that's how we roll. Like, so and I keep hearing pundits always say, well, yeah, they play this attacking style, but they give up a lot of goals. And it's like, do we though? Because we don't. And you keep forgetting that. Did we lose any defenders? No. Did we lose any midfielders? No. Still the same squad. Yeah, they get older, but I mean, they're like wine back there. They get better with age. The defense, it's more of a wisdom thing. You don't got to be super fast. I mean, Camacho, I think he's 49 going on 70, but he's still going to ball. And the other thing that's great is we have, like you said, we signed 5 keepers. We might play 2 goalies. Nanti's crazy. I've been saying 2 goalies since day one. I think that's the play.
But can you say it in French? If you can't say it in French, then it's not going to be accepted.
Oui, oui.
There you go.
Like I said, I don't know where the goals are going to come from. And if they do come around 60, we see a drop off. But if we stay solid, play the way we are, we're still going to do okay.
I think it's interesting what you said, which is you could go under this line and still have the second best goal differential in the Eastern Conference and one of the best in Major League Soccer. All of that goes down to the fully cohesive style. The reason they play out of the back, the reason they do all these things that old school announcers will be like, I think it's a bit dangerous, not sure this is the right idea, is because it creates the game states that allow them to be that successful. So when you do that, you pull another team out of their shape because they don't know if they want to pressure there or not. That allows space. There is a lot of things, my point being, in which Cucho here or not, Wilfried Nancy is going to play the same style because it is what makes them successful from front to back. It is not just made to score goals. I also think that style allows players to reach confident spots more often. And so my guess is they're still going to come in really close to this line, even without Cucho. I'm actually going to go over. I'm going to say that enough pieces step up that they are close. And if they're able to nail the signing and replacement of Cucho and that player can sort of hit the ground running, your hope is they get it done this window. I think Tom said the stat, which is 2/3 of the season will be played before the summer transfer window opens. So on a regular season point of view, you want to get the deal done to have that player be available, even if they're not in the building week 1, 2, 3, 4. You want them to be available to train from the start of the season. But I'm still going to go over on this line. Either way, Columbus is still must-watch this season. If you've never been to a game, you should go. If you follow the team and you somehow don't already know, Upper 90 Club podcast is your spot. If you don't, and you're looking to have some fun and listen to some good soccer pods, especially with someone who actively said they hate doing it and they don't want to be there, make sure to tune in as the season goes along. And Ben, I'll throw on my basketball jersey and we'll do this again soon.
That's my dude. Yeah, let's do it.